So this is the 2024 Nissan Sentra, which has a starting price of just over $21,000, making it one of the cheapest cars that you can buy new today. And on top of that, for 2024, the Sentra features this new sharp refresh. Now this particular Sentra happens to be the SR, which starts at around $24,000 and is the top of the line trim model with the same standard powertrain, but more base trim and luxury options available. And in this video, I'll take you through the exterior, the interior, the powertrain, and of course, we'll take it for a drive. So getting right into it, this is the key to our Nissan Sentra. It's shared with other Nissan models. You'll find the remote start button at the top, which isn't on this car, but we do have lock, unlock, of course, the trunk pop, which does work, and even the panic button. Now getting right into it, this particular SR is of course finished in what Nissan calls gray, but it does have very much a bluish hue to it, but lots of nice metallic sparkles in it as well. The SR features its own sort of exclusive trim finish. Note we have this black roof, black mirrors, and in the front here, we can take a look at our 2024 refresh, which happens to have new LED headlights that look quite nice and I think improve the look of the Sentra. We also have the new Nissan badge here front and center, and of course the SR badge, noting that this is in fact the top of the line trim model. One of the other things you get with the SR trim model is going to be these premium 18-inch wheels, which it looks like somebody had a fair amount of fun curbing. That's not great. But if we take a look at the wheels, you'll notice that we actually have disc brakes, and that's for the front and the rear. Underneath, we do have front independent suspension with a multi-link setup in the back. So even though it is one of the cheapest vehicles for sale anywhere, they certainly don't cut any corners like having drum brakes in the back. So that's fantastic to see on this vehicle. We do have these heated power mirrors with integrated turn signals that are also painted black. This model also has this moonroof, which is quite nice. And as we move further back here, we can see our matching wheels there. And we even have this nice body color spoiler across the back, which makes it look a little bit sportier. More of that updated Nissan badging and just some other general badging and appearance stuff. It looks pretty good, all things considered, and I think the refresh definitely did the Sentra some favors. So moving on to the interior, if we open up our keyless entry front door here, we can see that we have a black interior in this model with seating for 5, which is going to be standard for the Sentra. The SR does feature some leatherette seats that have some really fun contrast options, including contrast stitching, which makes it look a bit more premium than it is for a very affordable car, and even this very sporty looking flat bottom steering wheel is quite nice with more contrast stitching and even our new Nissan logos. You'll also find some fake carbon fiber trim throughout as well, but more importantly, the higher trim models also get the 8-speaker Bose sound system, which doesn't sound great, but it's certainly not bad either. So if you're going to be using this for your commuter, it might not be a bad idea to invest a little bit of extra money for that sound system. But this is a 4-door car, so one of the things I want to stress is the usability of the back seat. So if we go ahead and open this thing up, we can see our seats there, and that is a bit optimistic to fit 3 people back here. Definitely 2 adults. You're not fitting 3 adults back here, maybe 3 kids, but let's go ahead and climb in. If we go ahead and put ourselves back here, now I'm about 6 foot for reference, and as you can see, my head is definitely hitting the back of the roof here. So it may not be practical to put a bunch of adults back here. I could certainly sit back here for a short amount of time, but I don't want to take any road trips back here, that's for sure. And with the seat set up for me, again, at 6 foot, you can see that my knees are definitely in the back of it. So you may not want to put adults back here. I don't think you'll have any problem with small children, but most adults wouldn't be very comfortable, but it would certainly work in a pinch. So that's a quick look. You do have 1 singular USB port, but of course you do get power windows for both sides. You even get speakers, just no extra vents or anything like that in the back. So not great from the climate perspective. But let's talk about the real important stuff, the front seat, where you'll be spending most of your time as the owner of the Nissan Sentra. Climb in here, power start stop button, go ahead and fire it up. You can see our lights for our blind spot monitoring, which is quite nice that it's on the inside and not the outside of the vehicle. I really appreciate that. Turn the AC system down, which is of course dual zone climate control in this car. And we even have 2 different displays here. We have a smaller digital display here, which can easily be adjusted depending on your preference for what you want to display. It's just fuel economy. And it's flanked by 2 physical gauges on each side as well. We have the speedometer on the right and the tach on the left. The important thing to note here is, as you can see here, we have some of our driver assist controls. Now these driver assist controls aren't available for the base model cars. You're gonna have to spend some more money and get something like this, the SR, and that's gonna get you some nicer features. While the base model does feature regular cruise control, if you want intelligent cruise control, you're gonna have to spend more money. So those are the things that you have to take into consideration when deciding which Sentra is for you. We also have quite a bit of various driver controls that are all very intuitive and easy to use. If we take a look at the center display here, it is of course a touchscreen as well with plenty of physical buttons for easy navigation, but we do get Apple CarPlay, Android Auto, along with Bluetooth, even Sirius XM, AM, FM radio, all that type of stuff. The other thing you'll notice are the camera controls. Love when these buttons are here to help you with parking, but you also get rear view guidance. Just note that the camera itself isn't really that great, but it's fuzzy, but hey, it still does the job. So to me, that's fine with me. If we take a look down here, we do have that dual zone climate control I mentioned earlier, adjustable vents, which can be aimed at both the driver and the passenger, so quite functional in that sense. And we do have heated seats and a heated steering wheel, which is actually leather wrapped as well, I should point out. Below here we have some storage areas, different types of USB chargers, which is much appreciated from a usability perspective, even an aux plug, which you don't see too often these days. We do have our physical shifter, which is no scroll wheel or mouse like you see in some cars, so that's quite nice and confidence instilling. These cup holders leave a lot to be desired because they aren't adjustable, so your drinks will slide around. You do get some storage. You can see the passenger seat has some side bolstering here as well, very light leg bolstering, nothing too crazy. Generally pretty comfy seats, some light padding here on the dash, and then over here we have some fun controls, power windows, of course the power mirror adjustments, but then the singular drive mode in this car, this eco button right here on the left, which if you press the button you can see it come up in the dash, and that is your only drive mode that'll limit your acceleration to try and make the car more economical. You also have your hood pop, various trip resets, and even some of your locking gas cap stuff, which is a nice feature. I think there's a lot of little things that mean more to me in this vehicle that you'll find and don't necessarily qualify as luxuries, but they feel thought out and it makes you enjoy the use experience of your Nissan Sentra. So all in all, not a bad vehicle, and you do get other options like this moonroof if you wanted to spend more money, but I think you get a lot for the money here. Under the hood, the Nissan Sentra features a single powertrain and drivetrain option that is standard across the board, regardless of what trim you choose. What we have here is a naturally aspirated 2-liter inline-4, rated for 149 horsepower and 145 pound-feet of torque, paired with a CVT automatic transmission, which leaves a lot to be desired, and that sends power to the front wheels, which also means this shouldn't be too bad in the snow, assuming you can clear what's around. Now, this thing only weighs around 3,200 pounds, which isn't too shabby, and it'll do 0 to 60 in about 9.2 seconds, which certainly isn't fast, but it's going to be just fine for general city driving and commuting, so you shouldn't see any problems there when driving your Sentra. Now, as far as fuel economy goes, as a fairly practical car, this has an EPA-rated 30 miles per gallon city and 38 miles per gallon highway with a 33 miles per gallon combined rating, which driving here mixed in Phoenix, Arizona, so that's highway and street driving, I was getting around 32 miles per gallon, which is driving with a fairly heavy lead foot, so I can confidently say that you will expect those numbers with reasonable driving or even using the eco mode that you'll find on the inside, and on road trips you'll get great fuel economy as well, making this a very practical car. So what's it like to drive the Nissan Sentra? Well, unfortunately, one of the first things you notice while driving the car is one of the worst things about the Nissan Sentra, and that is the fact that it has a CVT, or a continuously variable automatic transmission. And that's a belt-driven transmission that has essentially one singular gear that it can ramp up or ramp down with speed. And unfortunately, there's quite a lot of rubber banding. So as you use the gas pedal, for example, if you kind of step on it a bit there and like let off, the car feels very delayed in its throttle response, and that makes for not a great driving experience. It doesn't feel very precise or even interesting. It's certainly not engaging, not that that's the point of the Nissan Sentra, but that's full down, slow acceleration, barely getting to the speed limit there. The car is definitely a bit slow. The delayed throttle response leaves a lot to be desired. That can leave with sort of a lurching experience in the car, but the rest of the car is really not that bad. The ride quality is pretty good. There's not a lot of soundproofing, so it's a bit louder when you're on the freeway. The audio system is fine. Everything feels fairly comfortable to use and interact with from a general standpoint, and so all in all, it's actually not a bad car. It's just really held back by that CVT. That being said, if the CVT doesn't bother you, or you're just using it to drive from point A to point B or commute in, it's really not that big of a deal. It's just not necessarily the most dynamic car ever produced. So that's a quick look at what it's like to drive the Nissan Sentra. So there you have it. That is a look at the 2024 Nissan Sentra, which does feature lots of good things, including a very sharp appearance thanks to that 2024 refresh. Now, the real question becomes, if you're interested in the Sentra, which one do you buy? Now, there are three main trim models. Obviously, this one is an SR, which is the top of the line trim model, but I don't necessarily think it's the best one to buy. You see, the CVT transmission leaves a lot to be desired, and therefore having the same powertrain across the board generally means you're going to find more value in the very lowest trims. That being said, the base model trim doesn't feature some of the driver assists like intelligent cruise control. It does have cruise control, just not the intelligent driver assist. So if you want that, you could go for the mid-level trim, which still gets you the option of getting the Bose sound system without having to fork over all of the money to get the top of the line trim. But there's also not that big of a cost discrepancy. The fact that the base model starts at $21,000 and that this top-of-the-line SR starts at $24,000, there's not a huge price difference in there, so really just pick the one that best suits your needs. And this is a fairly sizable car. It's a bit more practical in some senses than things like the Corolla, but it has that CVT transmission, which leaves a lot to be desired. But with that, that's going to be the end of the video. Feel free to let me know in the comment section down below what you think of the 2024 Nissan Sentra. Do you have one? Are you considering purchasing one? Let me know down below. And of course, if you could hit that like button for me, I'd really appreciate it. And consider getting subscribed for more content like that in the future. With that, thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.